I was disillusioned by the education system as a boy, and I felt like my greatest strengths were treated as behavioral issues. And at about the age of 14, I found myself inside of 3 different schools within 9 months. I ended up dropping out of high school at around 16.
Unless we radically reform the school system of the United States, radically reform them, unless we somehow prepare them for citizenship because they're not prepared now, the future of this country, both politically and economically, is seriously in question.
We now live in a new world and require a new paradigm of education. So I've taken my education into my own hands, and I'm traveling the world seeking out my own mentors, teachers, and experiences to build my own self-directed and self-determined education. Follow me as I seek an education in the world. Hey friends, how you doing? We're here in Croatia. And I'm not sure the name of the town. How do we pronounce it? In Savicente. And yeah, we're here to meet with Jen, an amazing Australian businesswoman, and yeah, she's living an amazing life. Jen built her first 7-figure business at the age of only 23 and went on to build another one a few years later, and her main business now does over $50 million a year in sales. And yeah, she's traveled the world. She's got a family living abroad right now, and has lived an amazing life. So I think the biggest thing that really pricked my ear about you, Jen, that made me I was interested in your life and who you are. But somebody said something, and they told me in the middle of COVID, you had enough, and you booked a $250,000 USD private jet out of the country just to get out. What happened there?
Well, yeah, I got sick of the rules and the regulations and the restrictions, and I've worked a lot of my life to try and create an unrestricted life. And suddenly it was like, oh, this is not the way that I want to live. So I thought, why not? When am I ever going to have a better reason to book a private jet and head across the world? So we loaded in 600 kilos of luggage, a couple of friends, the kids, the dogs, and flew and landed in Croatia. We went via Darwin, Cambodia, Dubai, all kind of in one neat trip. It was the easiest flight I've ever done. It was so much fun. It was just, the fun side of it too.
It'd be quite an adventure.
Yeah.
And so you picked everything up and moved to Europe. It was all about, I guess, having choice, wanting to not be restricted.
Really, I've had a great girlfriend. She and her husband came with us as well, and they said, why don't we go and land on this island in the middle of the Adriatic? And it just sounded like so much freedom after a couple of years of increasing rules and restrictions. And so we sold everything. We had a beautiful farm and we sold it. And there's something really cool about stepping into uncertainty.
Yeah.
And it's probably something that as humans we resist a lot of the time. Maybe my next challenge was to get comfortable with the uncertainty. And I always knew it would be the best thing we ever did. And being able to give the kids this experience as well. I've always said to Jono, well, we can live anywhere, we can work from anywhere. So why don't we live 5 years in 5 different countries? So here we are.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think looking at people who have lived amazing lives, done amazing things, generally speaking, they've had a unique education. As in that they've challenged existing ideas, and yeah, their education hasn't been just what they learn at school or university, but they've gone on a journey of learning. What is your, like, if you think about education in a wider sense, what's your education been like?
I think my education started as a child, and actually, as I say that, like, all of our education does start as children, right?
Yeah.
In school, of course, but from our parents' friends, from anyone that we're in contact with, we're always learning, we're always picking up things, and some of those things are really helpful and some of those things are unhelpful. And really, if we want to talk about success or achieving the things that we really want to achieve in life, it's just a matter of figuring out which are the unhelpful learnings and which are the helpful learnings, and do more of what's helpful and less of what's unhelpful. We lived on a farm, and every Christmas school holidays, my brother and I had to spend the whole 6 weeks chipping weeds from rows of peanuts.
Yeah.
And we hated it. And Dad paid us 50 cents an hour. And it was a while ago, so, you know, with inflation, it was probably a bit more reasonable, but it was not much at all.
Yeah.
But they also used to give us, here's another big number, $1 a week for school banking.
Wow.
And so we saved up our 50 cents per hours, and we saved up our $1 a week, and then Dad would take us to the cattle sale, and we were allowed to buy a little calf that had just been weaned from its mother and bring it home and have it on the farm.
That's awesome.
And then when it got big enough, it would have a baby.
Yeah.
And then the baby would be, once it was big enough, we could sell it and buy 3 more. So by the time I went to university, I had 18 cows.
18 cows.
Yeah,
Wow.
that I sold to pay my way through university.
Wow.
But it was that knowing that the work that wasn't that much fun led to being able to do something much, much bigger.
Yeah.
That knowing, I think, was a really valuable learning.
Yeah. And you built your first 7-figure business by the age of 23.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Yeah. What do you think allowed you to do that, or what even gave you the desire?
Yeah.
Desire to do that?
Yeah, that's a really easy question. So I was working, I think I don't like rules, right? I don't like restrictions. And so I was working for the government as a physiotherapist. And I can clearly remember one day I wanted to order a patient a knee brace, and it was going to take 6 weeks until 4 people sat the paperwork on their desk and went through their time frame to approve it.
Yeah.
And by then the patient doesn't even need a knee brace.
Wow.
So I thought, you know what? Stuff it. I'm going to start my own business where if I want you to have a knee brace today, we order it, courier it, and you've got it by tomorrow. I had no idea if it was going to work, but I knew I didn't want to stay where I was. And another thing my mum and dad always said, you can always go back. So why not give it a go? So that business went from a 0, like opened the doors, and it took less than a month to get to 100 patients a week coming through the door. And it just went from strength to strength, and we hit $1 million in turnover at just under the 2-year mark. So
I think one thing that I've learned over the last little while is like wealth creation is like such a big piece of the puzzle if you want to live an amazing life, a life on your own terms, to be able to pursue what's truly meaningful to you, and to have to be able to take people along with you on the ride. What was when did you realize that if you wanted to live an empowered, inspired life, that you needed the resources?
Well, it's just common sense, really, isn't it? So I think because I so loved my childhood on the farm, and then interest rates went to 21%, and there was a big drought, and Mum and Dad really had to sell the farm and do something different to survive financially. I promised myself then that I would buy another farm one day, so that my mum and dad didn't have this financial stress and they could actually enjoy it. Yeah. And so that was my first big dream that really drove me. And then I had to do the math. So I was like, okay, where I want the farm to be, where there's no drought and it's always green, and the number of acres that I want. Is going to cost me at least $1 million, and then to improve it the way I want to improve it, another $1 million. So I started adding up what I was saving every year, and it worked out that by the time I got the money together, Mum and Dad might not even be here. My question that I woke up with every day became, how am I going to get the money together so that I can make this dream come true? Yeah, and I think that it's the questions that we ask ourselves that are the most important. You know, the questions we ask ourselves over and over and over.
And what were the biggest breakthroughs or things that you had to unlearn or relearn around money?
Yeah, I think it was really just understanding that if I had more, it doesn't mean someone has less. I just thought one day, like, what if I'm here for 80 years and all I ever do is earn enough to look after me? Like, I can't feel good about that life. I want to know when I'm 80 or 100 or whenever it is I'm, taking my last breath. I want to know that I did more than that. My whole existence on this planet was just not just for me. This seems like, what's the point, right?
What's the point?
Yeah.
And if you think about like the key things to live a great life, like if you were to break it down to like the most like core ideas, what do you think they are for somebody like a young person to like grasp if they want to live an inspired life?
Yeah, I think it's creation. Like, if we're not creating, we were put here to create something unique that no one else can create. All the time that we're in creation, that we're working on something, we feel that we have purpose. We feel fulfilled, and it doesn't mean there aren't obstacles along the way. It doesn't mean it doesn't feel hard. It doesn't mean we don't want to kick the wall sometimes, and bang our head against it even, or that we don't screw it up and feel like, at times we made such a big stuff up that we've lost it all. But staying in that creation, it's exciting, it's fun, it attracts other people who are in that space as well. And we get out of the just doing the do for the sake of doing the do.
That's the key, is like, it's creating amazing things.
Yeah, creating, learning, continuing to learn. I mean, there's so much to learn in the world, isn't there? And there's so much that we can choose to master. And the amount of learning that needs to go into mastery is, obviously, there's no limit to it. Then once you're on that pathway, it's just knowing that you're getting better every day and feeling, so many people are waiting to feel certain or confident before they do something. But in reality, we're never going to feel that first. Yeah, and that confidence and that certainty is a sign of mastery, and that's when we have our gifts ready to give to the world and make the world a better place. And the money that comes from delivering value to the world, that's just like fun. That's just the fun part. And I think people get it the other way around. They do the thing for the money, and people say they don't care about money or whatever, but they do, because they show up at a job they don't like so often for, however many days a year, 5 days a week.
50, 60 years.
Yeah.
They don't care about money, but they give their whole life away for minimum wage.
Yeah, and I remember that feeling every Sunday afternoon. It was great Sunday morning. About lunchtime, you're on the wind down. You've got to start to think about going to work tomorrow. And do I have food in the fridge to make my lunch? And what's my Monday schedule like? And then Wednesday hump day, like, there's something wrong. We're all celebrating Wednesday. It's Wednesday hump day. We're halfway there, and yay, it's Friday. And
it's almost like a slave mentality.
Yeah. And ever since I stepped into my own business, and took control, I haven't had that feeling.
And it's been cool, like, seeing your family and spending some time with your family, and you're giving your kids an extremely unique education.
Yeah.
Like going around the other side of the world, and they've got like a really cool school sort of situation, how they,
Yeah.
how what are they doing for school at the moment, and
Yeah,
how's that different
so
to what's normal?
So once we landed here, we realised most people speak some English, but the Croatian language is quite difficult to pick up.
Yeah.
Some people say it's one of the hardest languages to learn. And so we realised if we plonked them in school here, that they would really struggle just because of the language barrier. But also what's happened in the world over the last two and a half years, 3 years, wherever we're at now with it, has really made me realise that a lot of people can't think critically. A lot of adults are not good at critical thinking. And that's the result of our education system. So I don't know that I want my kids to be in the system if at the end of it they're not good critical thinkers.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, okay, but I still want them to have an education, and I still want them, if Maya says one day, Mum, I want to go to university to be a dentist, I still want her to be able to get into university if that's her, to have her options. So I phoned a couple of friends, and eventually I found these two amazing teachers in Australia who didn't want to just accept all the rules and regulations. And so they were brave enough to step out and start their own online type of education, but it's really specific. So Isaac and Maya have 3.5 hours a day, 3 days a week, one-on-one with their two teachers, and it covers all of their curriculum. And they do basic curriculum, and then they also have project-based learning, which is real-world projects that they actually create and make real in the world.
Yeah.
You heard Maya's song,
we got to
and
see some
you
of the
saw
stuff they've been creating.
the
It's
house
amazing.
Isaac designed, and the kids love it. They're so engaged. They never complain. They work outside of school hours just because they love their projects and what's happening, and they're excelling. So Maya's end of grade 3, and she's mostly doing grade 4 and grade 5 work. And Isaac's really caught up. He got quite a ways behind because the schools were shut for so much of the time when we were back in Australia. And so it's been a great catching up process, and I love who they're becoming, and that they're learning the important things, and they're not spending time learning stuff from other kids whose parents are too busy to parent them, or because the curriculum says this is what the curriculum should be. So we're really able to craft what their education looks like.
Yeah, it's been really cool to watch. Yeah, your kids are amazing. Like, Maya, I can't believe she's 9.
Yeah.
It's actually ridiculous. She's talking to me like she's an adult. Like, it's amazing and so creative. And what are the key lessons that you want to impart to them?
I just want them to know that they can do anything that they want to do, and just things like having a great work ethic, because again, that's what my mum and dad taught me. They taught me to get the work done. Eat your veggies first, and then you can have dessert. And I think that's like the start of learning about delayed gratification.
Yeah.
And people seem to they're missing that, right? They're like, oh, if I don't like it, I'm not going to eat it. Well, and if I don't feel like doing it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so just teaching them those lessons that I know have held me in really good stead. Always being open, always being willing to learn, watching other people and learning what to do and what not to do. I think that all of that, and then for me the most important thing is that they're kind and they understand kindness first and foremost. Because imagine if every time we typed something online or every time we spoke, we asked ourselves, is this really kind? And kind doesn't mean never hurting someone's feelings or never challenging someone, because sometimes, that old saying, you have to be cruel to be kind. I don't know that we need to be cruel, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily.
People pleasing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes we have to say the hard things and do the hard things, but they're the right things to do, and kind in the long run. So helping them navigate that conversation and never just being mean to another human or animal just because it seems like fun or cool or whatever.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
If you think about what does a good life mean to you? What is the good life for you?
I think it's always having choice, always having options, freedom. Freedom is such a commonly used word these days, right? But it's the freedom to choose, and to have that freedom, we need to be well resourced. And so a good life is being able to help when someone needs our help.
Yeah.
To be kind when someone needs our kindness. And being able to make a difference in some way. Yeah, I think that's a good life.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a cool. I think that's the difference between what you guys have been able to do over the last year compared to what a lot of people who just had to cop it back in Australia and they didn't get to be free would say you kind of made the choices to be able to be free no matter what.
It's honestly it's once you know how to become well resourced and therefore free, it's really hard to watch people say, but I didn't have a choice, because we all do. We all can choose, and in fact our choices from the last decade have put us in the situation where we may not have a choice now. So we need to always be making better choices, making smarter choices that are allowing for events, allowing for things to change. Things may always change in the future, right? They're the things we can't control. So what if we make better choices now, such that if a pandemic comes along, if a government, gets a bit crazy and starts making too many rules, that we're in a situation that we don't have to say yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
That we can say, no, that's not okay with me, I'm out.
Yeah. And what is mastery? You touched on that before. What does mastery mean to you?
I think mastery is becoming so good at something that it just feels like in flow, that it feels natural.
Like play? Maybe,
yeah, like play, but just it's this feeling of flow. And I remember it really clearly as learning to become a physio. Every step was hard and challenging, and then finishing the degree was great, and then technically you're you're qualified, let's go. But first day of week, first month, first year, I still felt so difficult, so hard. And then after 5 years, it's you basically on automatic. It's just so easy, and you know how to help, but your helping is amplified because you know exactly what you're doing, and it's beautiful to watch. Mastery is when a skill becomes an art form,
I love that.
and it's you watch anyone who's, let's say, an incredible horse rider doing dressage. It's beautiful. Someone who's mastered painting, it's beautiful. Cooking, a chef at their top level.
Yeah, they're an artist.
It's just it's soul stirring, right? And the question is, why don't we all want to become masterful at something and feel the joy that brings, and the sense of achievement, and the fulfillment and the satisfaction. They're all the cool feelings that we're meant to experience as human beings.
Yeah, that's amazing. And if you were to have one last final sort of word to impart as your most important message, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it's back yourself, figure out who you are, what's important to you, what you stand for, what you stand against, and what you dream of. Have the courage to have a dream, and then back yourself and know that you've got everything that you need inside, just everything, and start on the path of creating it. And so when you're taking your last breath, that you lived a life that was more than about you, and you took the time and made the effort to find your gifts and then nourish them and give them to the world.
Thank you.
That was epic.